Welcome back to Racing Across America. Coming up on Saturday, the Whitney, and a very, very contentious edition of the Whitney. A couple of the main contenders, VE Day and Wicked Strong, and we have the trainer of both of those here now. Happy to be joined by Jimmy Jerkins. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
And before we get to the talking a little bit Whitney, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of, obviously earlier this year, the whole racing community was saddened by the passing of your father, but here we are up in Saratoga. So just on behalf of all the viewers, I know I'm speaking for them and the folks at Capital O TV and whatnot, condolences to you and your family on the passing of really a legend, Alan Jerkins. And I bring it up also because tonight, Andy Serling with his radio show down at the Parting Glass, 8 to 9, will be doing a tribute to Alan Jerkins, and you're part of the lineup, correct?
Yes.
And it should be a lot of fun. And it had to you know, obviously hard to the passing of your dad, and as I say, a legend, but the condolences from the racing community, and guy was a legend, and just to know that his legacy kind of lives on. People like Mike Hushin, Chuck Simon, Leah Giramatti. We had Ralph Thoreau on a couple of days ago talking about working with your dad, you, and of course your nephew David Jerkins, now out at Del Mar. His legacy lives on.
Yes, you know, and it's, you know, it's hard not to get emotional every time somebody brings it up, but you know, we have to go on.
I wanted to, before we move on to the racing this weekend, I just want to bring up, speaking of your dad, legendary, one of the stories, of course, Onion beating secretary in the Whitney. So you had an article with Dave Grenig, who we just had on, and you mentioned a story of watching Onion beat secretary from the backstretch with the tote board kind of in the mix there. Relate that.
Yeah, well, I think I was standing with my brother Steven, and they came by us down the backstretch, and he was in front. He had just almost broke the track record, going 6.5 furlongs.
Yeah, people don't realize he's a good horse.
So he's basically a sprinter, and he was stretching out. So naturally, he was on the lead. I think he went 1/2 of 49, so he would be on the lead in there for sure. And they went around the turn. You could see the orange, the hobo silks were bright orange. You could see them a mile away. And then when they turned for home, I don't know if it's the same now. Maybe it's just because I was a lot smaller, but the tote board it obscured probably from the 3/16 pole, or maybe not quite that far down, maybe the 8th pole to just a few yards before the finish line. And when he disappeared behind the tote board, he was 3/4 of a length in front of Secretariat. And then, you know, we were saying, you know, when they emerged from the other side, you only had a, like I said, might have been 10 or 15 yards to go to the wire. We were just sure that the blue and white blocks in the Secretariat would be about 3 or 4 in front, and that wasn't the case. As soon as they emerged from out of the tote board, he had the same 3/4 of a length on as he did going into it, and we just couldn't. God, the feeling was just incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine. Again, one of the really great upsets up here at Saratoga of all time, the legendary Alan Jerkins. And again, I'll remind people tonight, stop down at the Parting Glass and tribute to Alan Jerkins with the Andy Serling radio show. All right, let's get to this weekend. And speaking of the Whitney, you have a couple of fun and legitimate contenders in. And Jim, let's start out talking VE Day. And I'm going to pull up the Travers from last year. Number 4 VE Day over number 7 Wicked Strong here in a ding-dong of a finish. But this makes VE Day 2 for 2 over the Saratoga Strip. How's he coming into it? And it seems like he's got a horse for a course angle at work.
Yeah, you know, I don't buy into that like most people do. I think that's, you know, when they say horses run good up in Saratoga, I think it's coincidence that most of the time they're rounding the form anyway, and maybe the fact that you're coming from a 1.5 mile racetrack with Belmont, where you know you don't have 2-turn races, that comes into play too. But I'm really happy with how he's trained. You know, he's only had 2 starts this year, so he should be, and he acts like he's good and fresh, and he's been training good. We've been careful not to overtrain him, but keep doing just enough, I think, to keep him fit and fresh, and I think we've done that. And
just talking with Dave Grenig before, Dave likes the horse. Dave picked the horse. He said he didn't know whether you'd be happy with that. Dave liked the horse, and he commented that the grass race was okay, an okay comeback, and then looked really good in the Brooklyn, and you missed the Suburban with him.
Yeah, matter of fact, the horse that I ended up winning the race with, FNX, I worked them both together, earlier that week, and they both worked terrific. Actually, VE Day worked a little better, which he will anyway. FNX not the best workhorse in the world, but FNX got a lot out of it, and as a result, bounced back and won the race. But I was all planned on running them both in there, and he just came up with a pretty bad cough right up close to the race, and it was one of those things. There was a lot of times you can take a chance and do it, but most of the 9 times out of 10, the right thing to do is to let it pass and take care of it and go for the next one. So that's what we did.
All right, and let's shift gears now and talk a little bit about Wicked Strong. And for this one, going to pull up last year's Jim Dandy, and we saw him just got nipped in the Travers, but in last year's Jim Dandy, Wicked Strong will be the number 7 horse, winning over number 4 Tonalist. Wicked Strong, obviously, with those 2 races at Saratoga, also showed perhaps an affinity for this racetrack, but this season, 3rd in the Excelsior, 5th in the Met. You tried him on the grass last time, and a nice second to King Creasa in the Forbidden Apple. How do you think he's coming into this race?
Really good. He's always been a horse that we've kind of haven't been able to keep the weight on him like you'd really like. But both times, last year and this year, seems like he got up here and he put some good flesh on, which I wish I could keep it on the rest of the year. But I'm really happy with how he's coming into the race.
Did he lose some weight last year after the season?
No, he after that mishap in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, there wasn't really anything wrong with him that we could see. But we decided he had run hard. We just decided we were going to give him the winter. Stop him there, not even think about the Breeders' Cup. Shipping him all the way out to California would have been tough on him. He gets riled up shipping and stuff like that. And we thought it wasn't the best thing, and we didn't. Coming off, it looked like he was going to run a big race when that did happen. But at the same time, when something like that happens, there's a lot of doubt. We just made a decision to end the year with him, and we sent him back home to Middleburg for the winter.
Now, Breeders' Cup at Keeneland this year, and these are 2 obviously contenders in the the older division. I'm sure it's too early to make a decision, but are those potential long range goals for VE and Wicked Strong?
Absolutely. You got to. You always got to think of that. We're not planning our races accordingly.
Sure.
I hear a lot of people talking in April. They got these plans where they're gonna, I don't know.
Working back from the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I like to take it a little bit more, be a little more deliberate and take each race at a time. But the way it's, the way the races are spaced out nowadays, it's a race you certainly have to look at, and it's the same horses you're facing now. So you gotta, if you can hold them together, and you never know who falls by the wayside by that time. So it's a battle, but you gotta hold them together, and who knows? It's always last one standing.
All right, and so good luck with both of those on Saturday in the Whitney. I wanted to touch on a couple other horses, and you alluded to it earlier, and we're going to take a look at the Suburban from July 4th down at Belmont. It'll be the number 5 FNX winning over number 6 Tonalist. Coach Inns runs 3rd in here. And Jim, this is a really, really nice New York bred, but we haven't seen him since the Suburban. Will we get to see FNX up here at Saratoga?
Yeah, we're gonna point him for the Woodward. No, I don't know what the 2 that I'm running on Saturday. They might wheel back too. I don't know. It depends on a lot of things. But yeah, the way he's developed since last summer.
Yeah, it really seems like he's better this year.
Yeah,
significantly.
Yeah, we gave him a majority of the winter off and just gave him one start on the inner track when he ran a monstrous number from, I don't really know how to read the sheet numbers and everything like that, but even like Kieran McLaughlin told me the number he ran the day we won the allowance race was just unheard of. And then he's pretty much duplicated them in the 2 races that he won since then. So, it wasn't a fluky thing, just the horse being fresh and running a big number off of being fresh. He was able to come back and duplicate it.
What was the explanation, kind of the fluky, non-finish in the Brooklyn?
We still can't figure it out to this day. We don't know what.
Bookends it with a couple of nice wins.
Yeah, and it looked like the rider was losing control almost right from the get-go. I don't know if he resented him taking too much hold of him, and he just got it in his head. But he was basically got of control once they turned down the backside. And it was something we were really leery about. But we didn't have any bad cuts in his mouth. He didn't have any glaring soundness issues. That we thought it's a big mystery to this day. But I was confident, even though he did that, I was confident he wasn't going to do anything like that in the Suburban.
I have bad days every now and again, too,
Yeah.
so sometimes it happens. And finally, I want to touch on, this is kind of fun, because back in the middle of July, the Rockville Center down at Belmont, you started Manipulated for Chester and Mary Broman, who had such a great summer up here last year, and they had a nice end to that Belmont meet as well, and this was part of it. And it's notable because $25,000 state-bred stakes race at 6 furlongs. Manipulated comes in as a maiden, and we'll watch this one win really, really impressively. Number 1, Manipulated. Again, in the first career start, a $125,000 stake. Talk a little bit about Manipulated, and will we see that one up here?
Yeah, we're aiming to run him on Showcase Day up here on the 6.5 furlong stake. But he had trained good. He had been training like a nice horse. The only issue with him took us a while. He got a little nervous about the gate. We didn't run him earlier than we did because of the gate issue. We wanted to make sure he was behaving right and doing things right around the gate. But he had really got on his case in the last couple of weeks to get him ready for the race, and he handled it. I worked him hard, and he handled it really well, like a classy horse.
Up here at Saratoga right now?
No, I mean before he broke his maiden.
No, I'm saying, is that one up here at Saratoga, though?
Yes, it's going 6.5. I believe it's the 27th or 28th of
Yeah,
August.
and so how's he been working since he's been up here?
Good, very good.
Because
very good.
That was certainly a very, very impressive debut.
And he benefited. That day was a day where closers were doing good, so he benefited from that. But still, like you say, was for him to run off and finish up like he did was, we think highly of him. When eventually we're going to probably try the Open Company, but this race is. It's right around the corner, and it's for $200,000. So against New York
you can
Reds,
pick up a $125,000 purse first time out of the box, and a couple hundred after that in the second career star. Why not? Why not? And then you can set the sights a little bit higher as you get into the fall.
Right.
All right. Jim, we wish you a lot of luck this weekend, obviously in the Whitney with Wicked Strong and VE Day, and throughout the remainder of the meet. And we appreciate the visit this morning.
Thank you.